World Extermination Radio with your hosts, John Vail and Tanner West.
What's up, Space Marines? I'm John 40 Ounce Vail, and I'm here with Splatterhouse and GoatLord. And as I accidentally lost the first seconds of our audio recording, so anyway, here goes.
Because if it's more than 128 units tall, repeats, and a net fucks everything up, they don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know. It's
so idiosyncratic.
Yeah. Anyway, so as most people know, you're kind of like the black sheep of the community if your custom title is anything to speak for. But I don't know. I think you're a really cool guy because I think that I get the impression that you're just someone who really enjoys deep conversation. That's what I get from reading your posts.
Pretty much, I don't have a filter, so I'll talk about anything. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've made like these threads that are like you talked about like your future predictions and stuff, like how we'll be getting like nanochips installed in our bodies and stuff like that. What are some things that you think of? Like I wanted to talk a little bit more about it because I know it comes off kind of silly on the forums, but I think if we actually heard you talk about it, you'd probably speak about it more vividly.
Yeah, maybe I could articulate better in actual conversation. That I haven't done many of those threads lately because they usually end up getting held, but now that hell's gone, I don't know. I guess they'll just get removed or whatever. But I think a lot of people just get kind of like really surprised and don't really know what to think sometimes because I try to project really far sometimes. So when I'm thinking, for instance, about smartphone technology, I don't necessarily imagine what the next step will be. I might imagine like 5 or 6 steps.
Yeah.
And I may not know what's in between them, but I try to imagine like what's the outcome of this in the middle of the century or something. And it occurred to me that a wireless connection or something that can connect to your actual neurology would be really ideal because you're not wearing a helmet, you're not looking at a tiny screen. What you're doing is having a freestanding holographic kind of OS in your mind.
Yeah.
Kind of like an augmented reality that doesn't require you to wear something. And what got everybody in a kind of their panties in a twist was my suggestion that you would eat your energy source or you would eat the computer as some kind of a digestible pill that then breaks down, enters the bloodstream, passes the blood-brain barrier, starts interacting with certain receptors in the brain, and it's like I don't think you'd want to get an implant because as soon as the hardware is outdated, you have to get a new implant, and that's kind of silly and expensive, and a lot of people don't like the idea, I think, of surgery for technological means or use, and I don't know. I thought, well, maybe you would eat something because there are pills that are used by doctors, to study patients, like pills that have a little bit of, a couple cameras and sensors in them. I've also thought of lotion or maybe even a soda.
So wait, you would like eat this pill and then like if you had to like update the operating system, you would like take another pill that would patch it?
Yeah, and so, you're never really having to install or reinstall actual physical hardware into your body like a cyberpunk kind of thing. It's more like you're just ingesting something that's going to dissolve and you'll piss or shit it out later, but it'll provide, temporary energy and computing power. And then, once the molecules get all used up, I guess, you would eat another one. And it would almost be like you'd have a thing of pills that you carried around rather than an actual smartphone or something, or maybe you just. I'm not really sure because it seems like, well, that might get clumsy, but I don't know. But I feel like at some point we might be open to actually putting something inside of ourselves, like, maybe even a vapor,
Wow.
Like you remember the PlayStation 9 commercial that had something like that?
No, I never saw the PlayStation 9 commercial. What happened in that?
This was something back in like the early days of PlayStation 2 advertising. And they had this really ballsy commercial that was supposed to be like PlayStation 9 in 2054 or something like that. And they showed a kid, like, I don't know, he opens up like a box or something, and all these nanospores like go into his, like, he's like breathing in these nanospores. And then like he has this hallucination, and the hallucination is the virtual reality of PlayStation 9. So he doesn't have to do anything. He just sits down and he basically enters this hallucinatory, virtual reality dream state. And that was like pretty freaking crazy for, almost 20 years ago to be thinking that way. And I don't know, I look at stuff like that, and I look at other ideas, and I feel like, well, maybe that's not so crazy to inhale, because, swarms like of computers, like dust, like whole dust clouds of computers are going to be a thing at some point. So maybe that won't be weird to inhale or ingest them at some point.
That's actually not that crazy, because I was watching this speech by some physicist. I can't remember his name, but he was talking about future predictions and stuff, like kind of similar to what you were talking about. But this is kind of in the closer future, like in the near, like maybe the next like 50 years or so. And the way he described it is how quickly technology is evolving. So the way he described it was that like you can go to a pharmacy and you can get a birthday card, and when you open it up, it sings happy birthday to you, and you can mail that card to somebody, and then they read the card and it says happy birthday, and then they throw it away. Well, the chip that's inside that birthday card today has the microchip that's inside of it has more processing power than the computers they used in 1945 when they built the atomic bomb. To like put that into perspective. So like he says, like in the next like 50 years, like we're walking around with like smartphones and everything in our hands, and we're connected to the internet, we're listening to music, all kinds of stuff like that. Well, he says that like it won't be very long before they start developing computers that are smaller and smaller and smaller, and you could he suspects that like the next thing will be glasses, and if not glasses, like after that they'll have like contact lenses. So what happens is you'll put the contact lenses into your eyes, and you'll get like a heads up display where you can see like people's Twitter feeds, and you can read people's profiles before you meet them. And if you're speaking to somebody who speaks a different language, you would get like subtitles on your eyes, and you could like play augmented reality games. And like if you're walking around, you need directions, you can get pointed to where to go. Like, could you imagine if you could like play Doom on your contact lenses? Like you would just have like a status bar like on your eyes.
That'd be so sick. The one thing that I kind of found interesting, I don't know, I'm not sure of the status of this, but they had a thing they piggybacked off of Pokemon Go, and this isn't really as technologically advanced, but I thought it was like a really cool kind of idea. So Pokemon Go uses your GPS and your camera and your navigation and all that. So this game was like a first-person shooter. But you hold the phone up in front of your face. It's kind of like your heads-up display, and it uses your navigation and your GPS. And other players that are playing the game, like you have to run around in real life and like really like shoot each other, like, and like not like literally, but you stand, you stand like face to face with your phones, and you got your heads-up display, and you got to like actually like physically like dodge and run and jump, and like it's. I thought that was pretty neat. I'm not sure, like I said, about the status of it, but I know it was an idea that they were working on.
And see, that's sort of like what's. I think you a minute ago you were saying some, about the physicist. I think that was Michio Kaku, probably.
Yes, that's him.
Yeah, he's pretty neat. What you guys are talking about is kind of like what's between now and what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Like how far in the future do you think yours is? Your prediction is?
Well, that depends entirely on the direction that AI goes in the next few decades, because if we get over all the major hurdles and superhuman AI happens really quick, like in the next few decades, then this tech that I'm talking about is right around the corner, like within, 30 or 40 years, but if not sooner. But if there are major hurdles and, having this extra super intelligence to help us doesn't come along until much, much later, then we could be talking near the end of the century, or at least in the third quarter. But I kind of have this optimism that we're going to figure out some really nifty things about consciousness and how to make machines more intuitive. And so that makes me feel like it may only be, 30 years off. And I'm talking the earliest version of that. The super slick, badass version will probably come about 10 or 20 years later, or maybe sooner. I don't know. But
Yeah, but even that's like not that far. Because I was learning about, yeah, like have you heard of DeepMind? It's like that's a
software.
it's a company that's working on like this learning technology, and they can use it with I think they use like one of the most recent things they used it with was this board game called Go, and it beat like the best player and the best human player in Go. So like what it does is it kind of like it just kind of like it follows these paths, and like it has like a set goal, and then it like follows these like random paths until it finds like how to get closer and closer to its goal. And it takes a while, but it eventually develops its own strategies and stuff. And they have something similar like this. Like they can they actually have some videos on YouTube of it playing Mario and like beating Mario.
Yeah.
Like all by itself, like just figuring out how to jump over enemies and go over. And it's just like
I've heard that.
If you watch the videos, like the first some of the videos are really long, so they kind of they speed them up, because like the first like half hour to an hour is just like the guy like figuring, like the DeepMind is just like figuring out what the buttons do, and like it ends up just like falling into pits like 100 times until it figures out that you can jump over them. But it takes a while, but it's interesting to see how it develops, because it eventually gets smarter and smarter, and like once you see it at the end, it's like it like competes with like some of the speedrunners of people who can beat Mario like as fast as possible.
Yes, that's what's kind of scary. And I've heard of Doom being considered as like one of the near future projects for this thing, because Doom is old enough that it'd be really novel and interesting to see it beat human players eventually. And the fact that it understands that there's a goal to the game, that it intuits that you're supposed to, quote, beat it, like that seems so abstract that it could understand that.
Yeah, I'm really not sure how it does it, but
it's so weird.
But it makes it so scary when you think about it in like real life, when you have like real life artificial intelligence, because like you want to make sure that the goals of the artificial intelligence align with what people want. You know what I mean? Because that's what I've been hearing about the dangers of artificial intelligence, is that like once it starts figuring out what it wants to do, like humans would just be in the way.
Go rogue.
Yeah, exactly. They go rogue like Terminator, and they just start killing people if they're, or maybe not killing them, but like maybe just doing something that where our existence is negligible. You know?
Well, on the one hand, I want to say that superhuman morality might be fancier and more efficient than normal human morality, and so maybe they may be benevolent, but at the same time, there are patterns that you can find in the animal kingdom that seem very human. Like if you look at meerkat society or whatever, they'll kick out a meerkat that fucks up really bad, that does like or if a primate is caught raping another primate, they'll ostracize it, which seems really human to have such a sense of compassion, like, hey, that's morally wrong. But we see in the animal kingdom, we see examples where they're being just like us. So there's a legitimacy to fearing what we do, which is we conquer and conquest people who are less intelligent, less civilized, and less we say less civilized, but then we're killing them. But people who are less sophisticated than what they are, we're going to, enslave them or conquest them or conquer them as humans. And machines may possibly have their own similar agenda. So it's hard to say morally how they're going to see us.
Yeah, it's
that's a very scary thought, and that's the main that's the subject of a lot of movies. A lot of movies.
I don't see it being so Terminator-y or Matrix-y. I feel like that makes for a great movie, but that I don't see it like being completely cooperative and harmonious 100%. There's going to be some weird stuff and bad stuff that happens, but I think it's mostly going to be a good thing. I think it's mostly going to have a positive effect.
Yeah, and I'm sure that once, hopefully once that, AI becomes like so advanced that it can start learning for itself and kind of setting its own goals and setting out to achieve them, that the human creators would be responsible and intelligent enough to have the foresight to say, all right, maybe we should have a quick kill switch here just in case things start to go awry,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I heard someone talking about I think it was like Sam Harris, and he was talking about AI, and he says like something would have to be developed along with the AI in which the AI, the artificial intelligence, is constantly asking the question like, "Am I doing this right?" Like so, like it has to constantly.
Checks.
Yeah, it can't be like fixated on a specific goal. It has to understand that humans can say, like, it has to be fixated on the idea that their goals can change depending on what the humans tell it.
AI will need to eventually understand what slavery and violence and like tyranny and just the things that we are capable of doing, but that we are trying to stop doing, in an effort to be a better species. Like AI has to be able to understand that on a really fundamental level if we don't want it to harm us.
Yeah,
sure.
I don't know how you do that though.
Weird things to try to keep the machine.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that though. Do you like feed it history or something, or like, I mean, does it have to figure it out on its own and just like enslave 1,000 people and then realize, oh, this is wrong?
I don't know, man. It can't just read the news. The context comes from being human, from like being alive for 30 years or 40 years or 80 years, or even a child can understand like the bad things that bad people do in this world. Like maybe not on a really concrete level, but they, can intuit right from wrong at a pretty early age. And I don't know, a machine's going to have to do more than just read Wikipedia or a bunch of newspaper articles. It'll need to have something that allows it to have compassion, I guess,
Yeah. It's a scary thought. Have you seen, I actually wanted to get Prince on this podcast. I'm hoping I maybe can talk to him maybe next weekend, but he developed this thing called Auto Doom, and that's his own like automatic Doom playing bot. Like he started with Auto Wolf, and he created Wolfenstein, and this bot that he created can go through the level and kill all the Nazis and complete the level and find all the secrets and everything. And he just recently he's making some like pretty heavy advancements with Auto Doom, and now you can play it cooperatively with the bot, and you can play through the levels, and it'll follow you, and it'll like kill enemies on its own, and kind of I haven't played with it myself yet, but I've seen some videos, and it's really fascinating, and
definitely is badass.
Yeah, I'm really excited to. I'm interested to hear what he says, because I've heard there was a Visual Doom competition or something where people had to develop bots that would win in a Doom deathmatch, and there was like a controversial article about it where somebody was saying that they don't want like artificial intelligence going in this direction where it's designed to find targets to kill. It was kind of like it was a red herring though. I mean, it was just kind of like a big scare thing. I think it was just something made up to get hits. because it never really got took off from there.
You're going to see a period in esports where you're going to see AIs besting, the top human players.
Yeah.
You're going to see that eventually.
Yeah, because I mean they have like chess and Go, like the Deep Blue that can beat the best player in chess, and I mean it's not going to be long before they, especially because games have like a limited scope of things that you can do in it. I'm sure like it'll be much easier to develop AI that can beat you in games than in other things.
But playing a game is a really complicated task, though, because you have to know, you have to understand a lot of things, and you have to understand like what it means to move around in 3D space, and that's kind of abstract for a computer. But this is exciting, actually, this auto doom thing and stuff like that. I mean, to put it in perspective, how important that Chinese game of Go, the beating the champion of that was. A computer can calculate how many moves it needs to think ahead in order to beat someone at chess, because it's like a reasonable number. The number of moves it would have to think ahead to beat somebody in Go is many, many orders of magnitude greater than the number of particles in the known universe. So there's no way no computer could ever run long enough to calculate just one move ahead. That's why we were saying earlier, it just intuits. It just plays it and figures it out.
Yeah. Wow.
Because it can't calculate ahead. There's just not enough room in the universe.
That's crazy. Never really thought about it. I never actually played Go, so I don't really know that much about it. But
it's weird. It's like, but the thing is that like, I mean, this is pretty. This may seem pretty obvious, but I mean, it's just the fact of like getting them to use logic and like we can like you can take a video game. You can take any video game and create AI that will destroy any human player in a deathmatch setting, because all you're doing is finding players and killing them. You can have, and they do have in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, the newest installment of Counter-Strike, they have the hard bots. The hardest bots are so godlike that they literally, it's almost like they have wall hacks. You know what I mean? And aim locks. Like they know, because they know where you are. They can track your movement. It's like they can almost track your movement. So, having them accomplish tasks better than a human is one thing, but it really, when you get down to like the process of elimination, the stuff that needs to be done sequentially and more complex things, and using strategy and stuff like that, and even like playing with other players, cooperatively. That's
something that's hard for AI to do, is cooperative.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been really fascinated with autonomous vehicles, because those are coming out in the near future, and you can just get in the car and drive yourself. Yeah, I've seen some videos of it already. They have like Ford just released. Well, they didn't just release it, but the most recent one I saw was they had an autonomous vehicle driving in the snow, and it can stop at traffic lights and stop at stop signs, and it'll stop when there's pedestrians in the street and all kinds of cool stuff like that. And it's really fascinating that like the idea of like eliminating car crashes completely, where like it's funny because like if you think about it, like there's it's just funny to think about if you're like texting and driving, like that's illegal now, but like eventually it's going to be like once like autonomous vehicles become so advanced, it's probably going to be illegal to like touch the steering wheel, because the cars are going to be like so good at avoiding accidents on their own. It's like
I would hope that they still have a manual feature, though, because I think that some people want it to be fully automatic, and it does that seem like you would maybe want to drive sometimes if it's confused, or I don't know. It seems like you ought to have a manual feature too.
Yeah, I'm sure some of them will. I mean, I'm sure they all will, really. But I don't know. Like maybe, I assume like in the distant future, it probably won't, though. I mean, it probably won't even be necessary.
That's why flying cars haven't taken off. It's too complicated for a human to upgrade. That would be like if everybody rode bikes and somebody has the first car, and we're just like, oh, I can just drive a car now. And it's like, no, you just know how to ride a bike. You have to do all this training to drive a car. And I think a flying car is so complicated that it's only really going to be viable when automation is total with the vehicles, because then there's no harm. It's all automated, so then flying is not a big deal.
Yeah, like it's so much harder to play like a flying simulator than it is to play a like a like a racetrack game or a racing game. I mean,
It's oh god, it's so difficult. It's so hard.
They're so complex, dude. And even like the controllers that they had, the special like interface controllers are freaking just nuts. Who even knows how to use them?
yeah, like even like just controlling like a helicopter in Grand Theft Auto is like way more confusing than just driving a car.
Yeah, yeah. If we and we kind of know that we wouldn't be good at it in real life. You're just crashing buildings and stuff, and so it's going to have to take. I've seen all these weird concepts for flying cars. It's actually kind of exciting that we're sort of going in that direction, but it's being held back by the fact that hardly anybody is smart enough. Well, it's not that they're not smart enough. It's just hardly anybody has the like skill to actually learn to pilot something that flies.
Yeah, it would take a lot more training.
But it's exciting. I mean, I think that when I think of how quickly things change, like my dad used one of those punch card computers back in the 70s, and one of those big garage-sized computers, and that was like the fanciest thing they had at the time. Well, this is like the late 60s, but still, they were not really much bigger or faster than the ones that were like 20 years before it, the first electronic computers. They were also garage-sized, these punch cards. And it's like, over a 25-year period, my dad had seen almost no progression with the computer. And over a 25-year period, starting from when I was a kid, I've seen the emergence of the internet and smartphones and virtual reality. And that happened so quick, and I don't know. It's that by the end of this decade, by 2020, it's going to be kind of weird. I mean, doesn't it feel kind of weird now, just compared to the beginning of this decade, the beginning of the 2010s? Doesn't it feel significantly different now? Definitely.
Like almost every year, like a way better cell phone comes out than the one you have now. It's like,
you're spot on, because it's really crazy to think like, humans have been around for so long, so many years, and only recently, have we pretty much like discovered all this crazy technology, and it's just been progressing and advancing like crazy in such a short amount of time in comparison to how long that we've been on this earth. It's just like it's mind blowing. Holy fuck! Where did all this knowledge come from? How are we figuring all this stuff out so quickly in such a short period of time?
Yeah, and it's I think the reason that we figured it out so quick is because every new generation is working with the new.
Oh no.
Everything out over again and add something. You always have this backlog of information at your disposal.
Yeah, I know. It's one way kind of, if you like to kind of like put things into perspective, what I like to do is watch movies from like years ago, because like if you watch a movie that came out like 4 or 5 years ago, the CGI looks so much shittier than it was when you saw it in the theater. It's like it's really crazy. Like when you look at like like the way movies have evolved like over time. Like I like if you like some movies I saw, like some movies you see recently, like they actually look like pretty damn good. But I bet like in like 4 or 5 years from now, you're gonna see it and you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this shit? Like when you see like in The Revenant, they have like the they have like that CGI bear, and it looks really good. But I bet in like 4 or 5 years ago, you're gonna start seeing like all the polys that make it up and stuff, and you see like it's like shitty animation. Like
I saw a really great example of that. Have you heard of Honest Trailers?
Yeah.
No. they did one on Shrek, and they said one of the lines the narrator said was something like, "And CG that looks like it's not done CG that looks like it's not finished rendering." And they showed like an extreme one of the there's like a few extreme close-ups in the movie, and they show Shrek's face, and something about it looked weird. It like didn't quite look as fleshy as it should have. It looked a little too ceramic or something, and I was like, oh, I guess it is kind of dated now, but it was like the best looking thing when it came out, and now it's kind of like you can almost do that on PlayStation 4 now.
Yeah.
I mean, Doom 2016 looks so amazing.
Yeah.
Like every time I'm blown away by how good it looks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then like in probably like 3-4 years from now, it's probably gonna look like shit.
Doom 3 looks good though.
Yeah, I mean it still looks good. I mean regular Doom still looks good, but
but it's good art direction. But yeah, it looks dated. I mean, Doom 3, like the humans look terrible.
Yeah.
Only because they're so blocky and kind of like emotionless, but most of it looks really good now, and there's like that Phobos project or whatever that's being done in Doom 3 that's been in progress for like 10 years.
Yeah.
That's like what they're pumping out of it at this point. I mean, it looks basically like a modern game.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I mean, I don't know. Id Software has always been really good, I think, about creating technology that has a weird lasting appeal. Like, even though people don't mod much for Doom 3, it just holds up as a technical achievement.
Yeah, it really does. I love working with the editor and making Doom maps and stuff. I've recently gotten like really hooked on like lighting, like creating shadows and with like regular Doom. Yeah, regular Doom and Doom 2. And
okay.
So I've been working with like light gradients and stuff, and I can make like even a really shitty map look pretty good, like just with lighting alone.
Lighting is huge, like in my maps. Like someday people will get to play my maps when I'm done being, perfectionist about every last detail. But God, just when you put a couple of lights in and a couple of shadows, and suddenly these places come to life. And if you actually understand a bit about lighting, you can do really cinematic, beautiful lighting.
Yeah.
And I love putting shadows on every possible surface. I mean, it can get to where it actually starts to look bad if you do it too much, because then you're having to make all these stupid little compromises that kind of don't look very good. But if you kind of know about light and shadow and know about how Doom can fake it, I mean, man, you can do some cool stuff with it.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure it out, because like what people, when they talk about lighting, they call it lighting. And what I realized, like after I like really thought hard about it, is when you're drawing sectors, it's more about focusing on shadows than the lighting. Because if you look in a room, I mean, pretty much the whole room's lit up, but like you got to find like the tiny little like just around like corners and like little pillars and stuff. You got to draw shadows behind that, and that's how you create like the interesting, realistic looking lighting.
Yeah, you're kind of, the only real quote lighting you might be doing is if a particularly bright light source is being, accented. But yeah, most of it is about, the shadowing. That's very true. And it really annoys me if I'm playing a mod and it's really competent, really good, but I see almost no attention like to the lighting. Like lots of great architecture, but I don't feel immersed if I don't have really nice sense of lighting,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've been really focused on that lately. Sorry.
I think too that me personally, anyway, I'm more impressed with when people take old, what's considered dated technology, and they just turn it into something that's like over the top for that technology. You know what I mean? Like they kind of push an old technology to a new limit,
Yeah,
I'm more fascinated by that than I am with like modern technology and how good it can, how close to real life it can, accurately represent or whatever.
I think Doom fans kind of, and I'm sure I'm not alone in saying this, we have a certain nerdy appreciation of the early days of trying to, like, I mean, okay, here's something I thought about recently. Throughout the 90s, the tech jumps from year to year were crazy because nowadays a year passes and video games don't really look significantly different. But in the 90s, especially in the early 90s, 1 year would pass and you would see this generational difference, like the difference between Wolfenstein and Doom, or the difference between Mario 3 and then Super Mario World just like a year later, or the difference between Duke Nukem 3D and Quake, which came out in the same year and were using wildly different technologies. There's something kind of neat about that to Doom fans, I think, about that rapid fire development. And we're the types who are going to get, we're going to crap our pants when somebody does something fancy with a slope. We just see something that nobody gives a shit about. We're just like, that's so neat that they did that,
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's weird to think about that. Like Super Mario 3 and like Quake came out like in the same decade. I think, right?
Yeah.
That's so wild. Because like if you look at games that like maybe came out like 10 years ago from today, they really don't look that much different than what we have now. I mean, it's the HD is different, but I don't know. Like they're really not far off as far as like actual technological advancements.
It's because we were jumping over such huge hurdles in the 90s. We spent the entire 80s struggling just to make a wireframe 3D thing, and then finally we could push computers enough to do flat shaded polygons, and then like we very rapidly it's like, okay, now garage shading, and now textures, and then dynamic lighting and particle effects. All these things kind of suddenly became doable on PC hardware for the first time, and that's why we see this dramatic, leap all throughout that decade, and that's why id Software was such a neat part of that, because time and time again, they, like Commander Keen was the first smooth scrolling platformer.
Yeah.
Platformers would scroll at 8 pixels at a time, and Commander Keen was like 1 pixel at a time. That was really innovative.
Yeah. Huh.
Wolfenstein was not really super innovative. It was just really pretty, but then Doom really pushed things, and then Quake really pushed things, and even at the end of the decade, Quake 3 Arena was one of the better examples of what you could, I mean, think about the fact that the Nintendo 64 was out at the time, and how, it could have never run Quake 3 Arena. So, in fact, it took the PlayStation 2 and the Dreamcast to be able to run it. And so, id Software, like all throughout the 90s, was at the forefront of pushing PC tech, which is really neat.
Yeah. Huh.
I remember too that like the first time I found out that Doom was like fake 3D, like faux 3D. I just was like, holy fuck! And like I really researched it, and honestly, the technology that John Cormack used to render that kind of like false 3D world using just 2D images is really like, it's pretty like incredible for that time. It's just genius. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that blew my mind too. Because I didn't find that out until like maybe like 7 years after Doom came out, and when I heard it for the first time, I was like, no, that's not right. You can go under rooms, right? You can go on, like, you can go. There's bridges in the game, right? And I was like, wait, there's stairs everywhere, but you don't actually go under these you don't go under these rooms, and that like I don't know why that like never clicked in my head, because like there's like. In Doom 2, there's like downtown where there's like skyscrapers and stuff. There's got to be multiple levels, right?
Yeah.
And that just like that blew my mind how they were able to just kind of like fake that whole time, and it just never came across my mind.
Felt so deceived.
It took me a long time to figure that out too, and that's why I keep posting in that thread about how Doom isn't really 3D, which that really brings out the nerdiness in this already nerdy community, because it's so interesting to have everybody attempt to give their own interpretation of this weird trick that the game does.
Yeah.
It's just so fascinating because it's not really 3D, and yet, I mean, look what people do with Ryzen 3D and the 3D, like putting 3D stuff in there, or just with pushing GZ Doom and doing like really complex stuff that, I mean, it's hard to
like
imagine.
portals and decals and all kinds of stuff like that.
3D skyboxes, shit like that.
Yeah.
I think the latest version of GZ Doom has like radioicity effects and like just all kinds of cool stuff. And I can't think of another game that's been as modded, because like there are games with more, I think a higher number of sheer number of mods. Like I think Skyrim might have more. I don't know, or is it Skyrim or whatever?
Skyrim, yeah.
Skyrim, whatever.
But see, that's mostly like here's the big titted version of this elf or whatever, and they're not really doing a lot of like brand new content. It's like a lot of reskinning kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that's mostly what modding is, because that's the easiest thing to do is to reskin, and or like there's those people that make Grand Theft Auto look more visually impressive. You might have seen stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, like, well, that's kind of similar to like how Doom was when it first came out, because I knew people were like making sprite replacements, like you can make cacodemons into like blimps and stuff, and like, or like Bill Clinton's head and like stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember playing some early stuff like that. I remember that.
Or like
Simpsons
Doom, exactly. Yeah, they just replaced all the monsters with Simpsons characters.
I cannot express my like elation as already a hardcore Simpsons fan at the time, and somebody, it was like somebody did something that I wish I could have done, and then like somebody did it again 10 years later, and this guy was like an actual animator, and he made a much better version of the same thing.
He made a better version of Simpsons Doom?
Yeah, there's a Simpsons Doom from like 95, and it's pretty crummy, and then somebody made one for Z Doom like in the early 2000s, or maybe the mid-aughts.
Whoa, I totally missed that.
It's really nice looking, and it's, unfortunately, the player sprite is not replaced, which kind of sucks, but everything else is, and I mean, that was kind of a trend in Doom for a while. Like there was Batman Doom, unfinished Ghostbusters Doom, there was South Park Doom.
Yeah.
I don't know if you played any other franchise things on there.
Hey, I saw this one that I really, it's unfinished. It's kind of like in, it's kind of in purgatory, but somebody made a 3D version, like a 3D first person version of Zombies Ate My Neighbors with
Oh
Doom.
my god.
But it's so unfinished. I want it to be complete so bad.
That's such a cool game. That would be so cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite console games ever.
You and me both, man. That's so much fun. The Sonic Robo Blast or whatever is pretty neat, just for the sheer technical achievement of like essentially turning Doom into a Sonic platforming game.
Yeah. Have you also seen their Doom Arrow made like a Mortal Kombat Doom, and it was like almost like a 1-to-1 creation of Mortal Kombat. Like it was actually like side by side, and like you could, like he had a Scorpion and Sub-Zero and stuff in it. I'm not sure if it was ever finished, but I remember seeing videos of it, and I was almost in disbelief. It actually looked like like the actual Mortal Kombat game.
That's so crazy. Yeah, that's neat that people do that, man. And geez, I'm trying to think of a couple ones I saw. I know there's some kind of Mario Doom. Somebody made like a Mega Man Doom.
Yeah.
Gosh, people just do. I saw one that was like a Japanese RPG. I mean, it was just totally not a first person shooter at all, and it's just amazing the creativity that comes out of it, and the fact that it doesn't even seem like Doom anymore when people do some of this stuff.
Yeah, that's what's so weird about it, because Doom is so innovative. There's so many iterations, like all the kinds of levels that we played. I mean, I've been to like everywhere on the planet. You can go to Antarctica,
Yeah.
you can go to Egypt, you can go to jungles, you can go to on top of buildings, you can go to hell, you can go to space, you can go to some virtual reality zone. Like there's no shortage of like different themes that like fit in Doom.
Yeah. And what else excites me is that there are now cultural flavors of mapping, because there was something released recently called the Japanese Doom Community Project, and it looks Japanese. Like there's a Japanese art style for the splash screen art, and the levels have the garish, colorful kind of quality of modern Japanese kind of aesthetic. You know,
Yeah.
like the way Tokyo is really crazy looking and anime is very colorful. It's reflected in those maps, and there was a Russian map recently that was really cold and very sterile and dark. Not sterile, but what am I trying? It was very cold and atmospheric and weird, and it was based on some actual Russian city, and it seems like that they have a penchant for doing realistic modding as opposed to like tech-based or hell.
Yeah.
And that's you know, I just think that's so neat that you see the cultural end of things in the mapping.
Yeah. Skyrim's got nothing on that.
Right, yeah.
That's what was the one? I think me and John were talking about it. There was I don't remember if we talked about this on stream or not, so I might be repeating some. Whatever, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
There was like that one project from what country was that? They created like a megawatt, and it was just like they were completely detached from the community, and they just kind of made like a megawatt on their own out of like their own interests and influences.
I think that was the Japanese community project.
Okay.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, that's really neat to kind of be so like just a small, very very small circle that's not part of any community. Because I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but at Doom World, because I've been there for like 14 years, and I just find it very comforting to know that I can always go back and talk about the game, and somebody has some cool new mods for me to play. I mean, it's such a neat thing, and it's neat also to see how attitudes have changed, because I remember when I first joined, people were still kind of hating on Doom 64. You know?
Yeah, right. Doom 64 is amazing.
People have really come around to it. Like, people were just so dismissive when it came out.
No way.
Wow, I wasn't around for that. That's crazy. I didn't know that. I thought Doom 64 was pretty universally like enjoyed.
Oh no, the community was initially kind of like, some people like me were just totally in love with it, and then there were a lot of people who just didn't like the new art style, and you know, the N64 controller is like 3 bananas stapled together, so it's like really and hard to kind of, you know, get used to, and you know, the PC, the kind of PC fanboyism, I think also was part of that. And once Absolution came out, and later when Doom 64X came out, it really I started to see a real change in opinion, and people were giving it the love it always deserved. But it came out at a weird time, you know, because Quake 2, Turok, GoldenEye, these are all like polygonal shooters. I mean, who cares about some sprite-based thing? And you know, by that point, you know.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I actually John knows this, but I actually, the first time I ever played Doom was on PlayStation. So, I mean, it's really not much different. Actually, it's a little more limited than the PC version because they removed a couple sprites and animations and whatnot. But
Yeah.
one thing that I like, and I don't know, I just love the PlayStation sound effects. Not so much. The ambient music is cool, but I like to hear I still use the music that any WAD comes with because I just want to hear the music that the creator throws in. But I literally have a separate. I have a WAD file in my skins folder or whatever, for Xandronum that automatically loads whenever I load a WAD, and it's PlayStation sound effects. I use them all the time. That's all I ever use, and like that. That was the cool thing about Doom is that they use them, or Doom 64 is that they use them. And yes. I love those super tall textures in Doom 64 too.
The super tall textures.
Yeah, like how so if you were to play Doom 2 on PC and you go up to a zombie man, he's kind of at your head level, But in Doom 64, all the monsters are much taller.
That's right. Yeah, the scale's a little different. I actually did a side-by-side comparison with like the Doom 64 Imp and like the regular one. It's almost twice as tall. These sprites are big.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like they could have crammed in the missing enemies if they'd made them at the same resolution as the PC, but it wouldn't have been as slick looking. So, kind of a compromise, but Doom 64 has aged really well, and I think that most of the levels are better than Doom 2's.
I agree because and not only are they like structurally better, I think one of the things that plays into it too is that you have new textures and you have new not just new textures but you have new items. Like not items but you have new architectural items. Like those weird like netting things that hang down and the new enemies.
Yeah.
And they're the maps, the Doom 64 maps it's much harder to complete than Doom 2 is. I think it is anyway.
Yeah, they're definitely very challenging. There's not as many hordes, but Doom 64 really gives the impression of I guess like the master or whoever is like running this domain like screwing with you, like there's so many traps that make you feel like like in Event Horizon, this thing is alive and it's messing with you.
Yeah, I like the scripted sequences it has. Like when you go into the second level, the terraformer, there's a part where you like hit the switch and the machine like pounds the ground and it like reveals this tunnel that's like underneath. That was awesome. And there's another part in like Alpha Quadrant where like the you walk into a room and like the machines like and on the ceiling like assemble the room in front of you. It's like it's really wild.
Yeah, that blew me away, man. I thought that stuff was so cool, and that game really freaked me out as a kid.
It scared me too, because when I played it, I the first time I played it, I had to rent it from Blockbuster, which is like a really old-fashioned sentence.
I remember doing that.
But I rented it from Blockbuster, and I only got to play it for a week, and I couldn't get past the second level because it was so dark.
Yeah.
The second level was just so dark. I couldn't see anything.
It's really dark.
Yeah, but it was a really surreal experience because like Doom is so like well lit and there's colors everywhere and everything, but Doom 64 is really dark and creepy, and it was like it was a really interesting experience, even though I didn't get to see much of it.
Add in the ambient music too; it just makes it really creepy.
Yeah.
There's a sprite that you see in the first level, and it stuck with me because it's like this twitching pile of flesh.
Yeah.
And I remember me and my friends called them dead babies because it's just a bunch of pixels, but we kind of thought it looked like a dead baby, or I kind of thought that it looked like a deformed goat, like that had been like dissected or something. Like your mind goes to weird places trying to, what is this supposed to be? And that kind of stuff really stuck with me. Like in there's more sacrificial imagery in Doom 64, like these impaled bodies and there's more pentagram textures and more occult symbols, and there's some kind of almost Egyptian looking, like evil looking shit, and it feels more evil than the other Doom games, and that really drew me in.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's just like it, when the game starts after that badass intro. And it does the kind of blood melt white thing, and you can hear like moaning. I mean, it's such a dark.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the darkest shooters, certainly from that period.
Yeah, that intro sequence, by the way, that was fucking awesome. I remember that blew my mind when I saw that for the first time. How the camera just kind of pans around, all the monsters are fighting each other, and then it like zooms out, and the whole map was just the word Doom. Holy shit, that was so cool.
I know, right? And even that intro music too is like kind of like very battle.
Yeah, that sticks in my head.
Oh, by the way, I posted a link to that Zombies Ate My Neighbors, or it's actually called Zombies Doomed My Neighbors. I posted a link in the Skype chat that we're in right now, and I also posted a link in the Twitch chat. So if you're on Skype, just scroll below like the call, and we'll be right there.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it now with the volume off. I was going to say Doom 64's intro also has something really funny in it that is I think in a way a homage to the cynical attitude of Doom's box art, because the Cyber Demon kills one of the Marines. We see it happen very explicitly in the intro. And a Cyber Demon is in the middle of killing the Doom guy in the Doom 2 box art, and a whole bunch of demons are in the middle of killing the Doom guy in the first game. And there's not, how many games have the balls to be like, fuck you, like right off the bat? It's so, I just love that. It's so cynical,
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that made Doom kind of different in terms of attitude, was that it really wanted to make it feel like a desolate, hopeless situation. Like you feel like a badass, but there's this sense of dread. Like the Super Nintendo ad just showed a bunch of ants surrounding like one ant, and it's like, that's you.
Yeah, I've seen that ad. Yeah, I got a printout of that ad from eBay. It was like torn out of a magazine, and it was only like $2 or $3, and I was like, "Whoa, I have to have that." I was really lucky I got it.
There's another Doom commercial that's like, it looked like it was trying to mimic Jacob's Ladder or something. Like it had a whole bunch of weird shit going on, and it was like a guy working at there was another one where a guy was working at like a meat pack. He was like a butcher. And so they have all this imagery of like, cut up meat and stuff at the butcher place, and the guy's talking about how like he likes to play Doom because it gets his mind off of work, it's so extreme in '90s, and I love how everything about Doom reflects this angsty heavy metal attitude, that I mean, when you're growing up, when you're a '90s kid growing up, especially if you're a young man, that is just so completely what you're all about. And I never really, Doom kind of was my introduction to all that shit. All the sci-fi, heavy metal, the satanic stuff, the H.R. Giger, it all kind of started with Doom.
Yeah, Doom made me interested in all that kind of stuff too, I think.
And then later on too, Doom really was my Doom was the game that showed me that deep down inside I love first-person shooters, and those are my favorite games, and I still to this day am primarily a first-person shooter gamer, and it's all because of Doom.
Did you guys play Blake Stone, Aliens of Gold?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah,
game.
I played that.
That was kind of neat. It was kind of neat.
That was different, and it was kind of it was a little bit more underground. I feel like maybe not for the time, but I mean that game was really cool because it gave like a whole new aspect to it. You know, back in that time period when everyone was kind of doing just like a shoot 'em all. This one was kind of like, you know, it had its own like little world and little like just, you know.
It felt like there was an established world rather than there's so many of these games were just like, well, here's a bunch of kooky monsters in a maze, and you know, there wasn't really like, okay, well, what's the context here? Like, you know, Ken's Labyrinth, the thing that guy made before the build engine.
Yeah.
That was just him screwing around, and a lot, you know, so everything's very random. It's just an experiment to make a workable 3D shooter, and I think a lot of them were kind of like that. And Blake Stone and you know, stuff like that were kind of felt more complete. And you know, Rise of the Triad was pretty neat,
albeit kind of silly though. But
Rise of the Triad was
yeah.
Yeah, but you were right when you said like Doom 64 like had that really desolate look, and that's what I really liked about it. And I don't know, I really like that kind of aspect of it because I don't know, it really speaks to me because you're right, you do feel like a badass, but at the same time you do feel like you're outnumbered too. Like you're tough, but you're not tough enough, you know? Or well, you are because you get through the game, but it's
It added so many little touches that I just make me smile. You know, like the way the chain gun would shake the screen, or the way that the colored lighting was often used to kind of paint the scenery more so than light it.
Yeah.
Which was such a neat thing, and the you know, the scripting, the transformations. The fact that you were given incentive to find the secret levels because of the pentagram keys upgrading the laser and closing the gates at the end. I mean, it's kind of intricate, you know.
Yeah, the first time I played Doom 64, I never did find all the artifacts to make the Unmaker, and when I picked up the Unmaker for the first time, I was like, what the fuck is this gun? Because it's like not much better than the plasma gun. I'm like, what the hell is the point of this?
Yeah, it seemed kind of throwaway.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, it was such a badass looking gun. It's like this fleshy like rib cage weapon with a pentagram carved into it. I was like, holy shit, this thing's powerful. And then like it takes like 5 or 6 shots to kill an imp. I'm like, what the hell is this?
I don't think that any other game was as overtly satanic as Doom. And that was part of its appeal. Like, you had Dungeons and Dragons, and you had Diablo and stuff like that, but I don't know. I didn't really see other games that were just full on like H.P. Lovecraft, demonic. Just I don't know, and that's part of what made, I think, Doom 16 a lot of fun, was bringing back this crazy world of sci-fi and demons and chainsaws, you know, for some reason. And I suspect you guys have played Doom 16 by now.
Yeah, it's well, what's so cool about it is not just the satanic imagery, but like the happy marriage of like the sci-fi with it too, because like you're bringing in these shotguns and rocket launchers, and because like there's games like Castlevania, for example, and they have, you know, they have demons and monsters and skeletons and zombies and stuff like that, but you're killing them with like a whip or like a sword or something stupid like that. And sometimes like it would be awesome if you could just kind of like it's just like the happy marriage of these two totally foreign concepts. You have like this like medieval archaic demons combined with like sci-fi military. Yeah. It's like, it's a really interesting concept. It's like it's not copied very often, I don't think.
I didn't like the fact though that I guess I felt like that Doom 16's hell was a bit too Christianly, and the kind of fire and brimstone, and I was wanting to see some stuff that was maybe a bit more H.R. Giger, and stuff that was like maybe cyberpunk hellish, I guess.
That's right. I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
Psychedelic hell even.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Because like in Doom 1, there's like episode 2 where it's kind of like you're on like these military bases, but they're like transforming into hell.
Yes.
And
yes.
You're right. Doom 2016 doesn't have anything like that. It's just like you're in tech bases, and then you take a portal, and then you're in hell. And it just kind of
the multiplayer maps are more interesting. They integrate.
Yeah, they do have some really cool ones.
They'll like, sorry.
I know. I was just gonna say I had a little bit of trouble getting into the new Doom. I really enjoyed it. I really do enjoy it, every time I play it. But it's just like, I don't know, man. I just feel like I want to play classic Doom or Counter Strike, and Doom, the new Doom. I like I said, it's a great game. I love it, but I just prefer the older stuff. I can't get myself to sit down and say, hey, I'm gonna play some video games, and say, all right, well, let me play a modern shooter that looks like real life. I'm like, nah, let me just play something that's pixely, and you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, Doom. You're right. Because I played Doom 2016. I played it twice, and I don't have any interest in coming back to it again. Like something about regular Doom 1 and 2 is just it's timeless for me. I'll play it over and over and over, and it just doesn't get boring to me. It's exactly what I want in a game.
I played it fully on Ultra Violence, and I'm now going through it in Nightmare. And I actually really enjoy the single player a lot because you're rewarded so much for exploration because there's so many ways to upgrade. And I don't know, I feel like accomplished finding the secrets. It's a neat feeling, but I don't mess with Snap Map. I always go back to Doom 2 for modding.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't touch Snap Map either. I played with it for like 5 seconds and I was like, whoa, this is complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated, and yet you don't have the structural. You don't have the architectural freedom you do with Doom.
Yeah, because like what Snap Map was like, imagine if you were making a Doom map, but you have like 6 sectors to pick from, and you just kind of like move them around in different like you can change the angle that they are, and that's pretty much it. Like it's a lot more than 6, but what I found with Snap Map is that you can kind of like stitch these rooms together, and like in a few seconds you can create this giant labyrinth, and it's like huge. And sometimes that's not even really what I want. Like I want like a small level, but I don't have a lot of freedom to do that because like all the small rooms you kind of stitch them together, and then they all look the same.
Yeah, I think they really wanted a compromise so that both PC and console people could have access to the same content, but I can't really imagine how a full-fledged editor, would work either. I mean, it would just be too complicated, and it would be impossible in a console. And this is probably the best way they could have done it. Maybe they'll figure out more intuitive ways. I think in the future we might be able to use our minds to construct things very quickly and like use virtual reality and like the Microsoft HoloLens. Some of the 3D modeling stuff I've seen with that is pretty amazing. So, I mean, shit. I don't know. It's weird to think what classic Doom modding will be like in 20 years because people are probably going to do some very weird, unexpected. I'll just say Ling on Doom World. He's talking about a map that would take like a Googleplex to beat or something. A Googleplex number of years or something to beat. I mean, and he's the one. I think he made the selfie stick mod
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, that's so, like, it's like Doom is able to comment on modern culture in a way.
Yeah.
There's like there's one where you play as Trump and you're supposed to kill Hillary. Hillary's like the icon of sin. So stupid. Like, why was that made? But, the fact that people are using Doom to, like, comment on things going on is so weird and interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating.
I like there was I forget what it's called. You probably know what it is, John. But these maps, there were like these crazy slaughter maps that would take people like 3 or 4 hours to beat. What was that called again?
Are you thinking of Holy Hell?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I didn't play it because I don't have the fucking patience.
Yeah, neither do I.
But, you know what I mean? But I think it's a really cool concept, like making like Doom like a single level that takes hours to beat. I mean, it's a cool concept, but I feel like somebody should do something that's like kind of like a whole megawatt almost, where like, but in like, I mean, maybe not that long, maybe like an episode or something in one map where there's like kind of phases to the level and like it changes scenery or makes you feel like you're going into like a different place, maybe like from a city and you descend to hell or something like that,
Yeah.
Cool.
I try to experiment with something like that. I had this really surreal map that kind of it'll start out a certain way and then transition into something hellish, and then they'll be like, I don't know, I stuck this apartment complex like in the middle of this weird hellish place, and when you go inside of it, it's like all fleshy, and then you can use Doom to do tricks where like you can have impossible geometry, like when you go somewhere and suddenly you're like outside but you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. Like that's something that's so neat to do and play with in Doom, and I don't know. It's just endlessly interesting, and I find mapping is like really calming.
Yeah, it's therapeutic. Yeah,
especially.
Yeah, I can sit down and like for a few hours and just kind of draw sectors until I make something that looks really cool, and it's very rewarding when it's done because it starts with like kind of a shitty idea in your head, and like when you start like making sectors and you're like you make like a couple rooms and you're like, this is not turning out well at all, and then you just kind of like work with it a little bit and eventually it starts to look really cool, and it takes a while, but as you shape it, it's like it's really cool that you kind of like make this idea in your head come to reality. And it doesn't take very long to do.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I have these stupid milestones that will just, like I was mapping the other day, and then I was playing, and I was like, I think this is my best toilet. Because toilets are really hard to make look like toilets because you can't really make like a 3D thing, and so just stuff like that will kind of be like a milestone, or I'll be like, this is really fun to play. Like I recently submitted a map, and some people reviewed it, and it taught me just like 3 comments taught me like so much about what I was doing wrong, about like being too subtle, or like this switch doesn't do anything and it's just there for decoration. Well, why is it there? And like just learning how to make a better level, that's rewarding too.
Yeah. Have you what are some of the maps that you've released? I don't know if I've played any of your maps.
I haven't actually released anything. The only thing I released was like I had a test in progress for the the WADs and mods section. I think I titled the thread something like "Test My E1M1 Remake for Doom 2," and rather than do it like everybody does, which is just basically do a 1-1 recreation but make it fancier, I basically just wanted to take all the core ideas of E1M1, like the armor room, the zigzag slime area, the hidden elevator with the rocket launcher, the outdoor area with the armor. I just wanted to take all those memorable moments from E1M1 and just create this new map. And my style is like kind of ultra realistic. I don't really do a lot of custom textures, but I'll just try to really push the normal Doom engine, and I get very, very anal about it because I want everything to like seem functional, like to seem like it has a purpose, because I guess like it's entertaining and fun for me to think like, well, this level is it's fun to play, but you actually feel like everything serves a purpose.
Yeah. Huh.
And that's just my particular mapping style.
Functionality over aesthetically pleasing features, I guess.
No, I try to find the best of both worlds because I try to think to myself, I want this area to be mechanically fun. I don't want it to feel awkward or unpleasant to travel through. I want it to actually, when you actually move through the environment, I want it to be engrossing and like not awkward. And because you can make something pretty, but it might mechanically feel really kind of clunky and bad if you don't map it right. So I try to find the best of both worlds because I get excited when people do like detail-oriented mods that are also fun to play, and it's hard for me to play stuff that is designed to look late 90s or something, like that late 90s style or something. I like them. I like people to mix it up and try to, if it's too gimmicky, I mean, I don't know. Like Brutal Doom is pretty, as a mod, it can be fun, but it's also very gimmicky.
Yeah. Well, I've always liked the 90s stuff because I kind of like using my imagination to like see what kind of imagine what the person thought the level looked like when he was making it.
I like that too.
Yeah, that's one of my like guilty pleasures is playing like old 1994 maps and just kind of like imagining what just what the level designer probably wanted it to look like if he spent more time on it.
I can see that.
I just can't. I have trouble getting into some of the older WUDs because I'm a slaughter wide level, a slaughter wide lover. So yeah, I mean, I'm not into like I am into like the Slaughterfest and stuff like that, but not even so much like that style of like extreme slaughter maps, but I like the Hell Reveals and the Alien Vendettas and like stuff that's really slaughtery and very, very challenging, but it's not like over the top like some of those community projects are. So
yeah,
it gets tough for me sometimes. Like I get bored sometimes when I play older levels or like levels or just WUDs in general that like just don't challenge me enough. I'm just like, all right, I'm just running around and
just kind of breezing through it.
Yeah, it's like this is not what I want. I want to die 5 times trying to get past this one part,
I have to say I do appreciate like the abstract simplicity of the older maps kind of implying things because that's a lot of the appeal to me about PlayStation Doom, which my experience is mostly with PlayStation Final Doom, which I don't know if you guys are aware, but it has both Final Doom and Master Levels maps in it.
Yeah.
Which is so neat. It's kind of like a compilation, and I have these fond and horrifying memories of being scared shitless because I really allowed myself to believe that, like, I guess just the music and the colored lighting, especially, and those sound effects, it's like the levels became so much more than what they actually were. And I really had this sense of dread being in these places, and I couldn't wait to get out of them because they were so scary as a kid. And even now, like, if I get nice and blazed and turn the lights off and play through a little bit of Final Doom, PSX, it can be very disturbing and dark. And I like that it can still make me feel that adrenaline fear, even now.
Yeah, I like how Final Doom and it like mixes like the master levels into it, and it has like that
Yeah.
nice like dark flavor to it too, because it kind of like it makes like a weird new functional narrative out of levels that you probably already played. It's really interesting how
Yeah,
it does that.
I don't really like it in the PC because like I played it in the PlayStation first, and so the PC was like underwhelming because it wasn't scary.
Yeah.
I think the big a huge thing, again, I come back to this, is that ambient music. I think that really, for me anyway, because when I was playing PlayStation Doom, I was like 6 years old, so I was easily scared. But I think the ambient music is really what did it for me. And I would play in my basement with the lights out, you know what I mean? And like the ambient music, just it was so eerie. It's just like, oh man,
Yeah, and speaking of that ambient music, Aubrey Hodges, he made an account on Doom World, and Doom 64 was like released like 20 years ago, like just a few days ago, and he did like a whole remastering of the new of the original Doom 64 music, and I haven't heard it yet, but I've been wanting to look into that. I think it's in the Wads and Mods section of Doom World, but I would definitely recommend checking that out. I'm really interested in what he has to say, how he like kind of recreated it.
Yeah, yeah, it's so cool, man, that he interacts with us and actually he talks very fondly about his time working on those games, which makes me very happy. And the soundtrack had a pretty deep impact on me because it was the first time I'd heard dark ambient music. And I remember a few months ago, I took some mushrooms and I had the soundtrack on at one point, and I was also watching some H.R. Giger stuff on the TV, so like it got pretty spooky for a while. And I keep wanting. I'm getting a little tangential here, but I keep wanting to like play Doom while I'm on mushrooms, but every time I do them, I'm in a very different headspace. I'm in a spiritual mood, and I'm like wanting to have deep conversations or just let the hallucinations kind of like dance around for a while and get ideas for art. I don't really want to even look at a TV, but I keep thinking like, man, I need to get around to playing Doom sometime like this. I just want to see what changes happen because I'm an experimenter, and I did once play Doom 64X while coming off of orally ingested DMT, and so that was like kind of weird, but it was kind of interesting because it by this point I was coming down, but I had a very sharp. My vision was extremely sharp, so like everything looked extremely sharp, and it was kind of one of those revelatory moments of like how beautiful the art style in Doom 64 is, and how well it holds up, and but I keep wanting to like check out the game at the peak of something like that, where it's like just full on nuts, crazy kind of stuff going on, but it's something that's proven difficult because like even looking at a TV screen or my phone in that state is like too much because it just explodes into a bunch of fractals and you just can't even look at it.
Yeah, it seems like it would be way too much information.
Yes, it definitely would be, but it's still on the list of things to do under the influence, But it's kind of that's something that freaked a lot of people out in the forum when I kind of first mentioned that I had done psychedelics, and I noticed that a lot of people, like somebody texted, I don't remember who did, but somebody messaged me and was like worried that I was going crazy, like actually worried. And I was like, I'm fine.
Oh my God.
Like I appreciate the concern, but you're barking up the wrong tree, pal. But it's I think it's because psychedelics are not well understood by most people. I think most people have this sort of preconception that that it's this terrifying, bizarre experience, and it is. But I don't know how to put it. I think just people think that it's just you poisoning yourself and sitting around being poisoned, and that freaks people out when it's like, what, you're voluntarily poisoning yourself. But it's pretty different than that. I mean, it's something that's emotional and it's visionary, and there's sound and there's experiences that just really defy language.
Yeah.
So when I talk about them on the forum, I kind of stopped talking about it after a while, because I noticed that most people were just I think they just didn't really know what to make of it. So they kind of, I was like this sort of deranged psychotic person to them or something, because
Well,
I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, it depends on how destructive the lifestyle is. Because if you're like living off of it, or if you're like cooking your own meth in your basement and like using like household products and like popping pills like every day, yeah, of course, yeah, that's a fucking problem. But if you're like if you're being sensible about it, I guess it's not that big a deal.
Well, I have not always been entirely sensible. There have been a few times when I probably pushed it a bit because I wanted to see what would happen. And because I went to the movies once after taking a bunch, and I ended up running out of the theater, like, because it was like way too stimulating. I was watching like this crazy anime, and I'm not even into anime. I just, something I heard about, and I went to go see it, and it was too much. And I ran into the bathroom, and I like had my shirt off, and I was like just staring at this toilet, wondering if I was going to puke in it. And I eventually just like ran. I just went to the lobby and collapsed into a heap on a couch, and I just had this ear to ear Joker grin, and I was just staring off into space and waiting for my friend to come out of the theater. And like, I would close my eyes, and all this cybernetic interlocking machinery would start to animate around me, and then I'd open my eyes, and all these like H.R. Giger tendrils would be sticking out of everything.
Whoa.
And there'd be like, extra dimensions like unfolding around me. So like I couldn't escape it, and like his girlfriend picked us up, and he was like, "Hey, it's time to go." And I'm just like, I look like I'm trying to walk through molasses, and I can barely walk, and like I just looked like a complete insane person, and having the time of my life, of course. But everything that happened was just incredibly bizarre, and like stepping into the vehicle was like going through a wormhole, and I'm riding in this car back to his house, and like there's tendrils and like fractal tentacles like sprouting everywhere, and there's all this like fractal geometry and Fibonacci sequences unfolding and shit. And I mean, it's so I totally get why people would be scared of that experience and think like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why would you do that? But the way I see it, I like to see it as that outer space is not just like, space isn't just what's outside of our atmosphere. We're part of space, and you're a part of space. You're a region of space-time that's enclosed in this meat sack, and for some weird reason, it can access parts of the universe that are very obscure. And that's psychedelic visions are this weird part of the universe that you can only access through like a near-death experience, or starvation, or prolonged dancing or drumming, or a prolonged meditation or yoga, or in this case, eating a particular type of fungus. You'll just suddenly go into this other part of the universe, and to me, it's worth exploring. So that's why I, like all of my art has become based around those visions. Like everything I've produced in the last year and a half has been totally revolving around what it's like to be in that place, because it just becomes an obsession. It becomes like I think about it all the time because it's fucking weird.
Hey, I don't want to get too off. Well, be safe, but I don't want to get too off topic. But
Yeah.
well,
we can,
I actually have to wrap this up because I have something to do after this. But
okay.
what is you told me a little bit. You have like a YouTube channel, right? That's where people can maybe check out some of your videos. What do you do on these YouTube channels? Well,
Okay.
what are they first? But
Yeah, well, the channel that's Pretty Normal Media is something that I'm currently kind of rebranding. It used to just be Cody Richardson, my name, and I would put just random stuff in there like YouTube poops of like home improvement, like stupid bullshit like that. I'm one of the only people that has pooped home improvement, apparently. That not a popular show for that thing. I would just put random stuff on there, and I recently decided, well, I kind of want this to be a hub for advertising my art and my music, and I also want to do more experimental videos and stuff. So it's kind of slowly being transformed into an experimental channel that's part advertising for my work and part just me experimenting. The other channel is RUTV, and it's youtube.com/RUTV online. That's it's you don't want to find that Russian TV network by accident, but that's a sketch comedy show that I've been doing for 10 years, and it started out purely as video experimentation, and I slowly started to try to build stories and sketches, and a lot of sketch comedy is kind of like very directly satirical of current events or of some celebrity or pop singer or whoever, and my comedy has always kind of been more about just maybe a bit more subconscious. The ideas are not really about anything. They're just I don't know how to describe it other than I come up with a mood. I feel a mood or an atmosphere build inside of me, and then and funny things start to happen in that world, and then I start to build something on that. Like I have like a series about this guy who's trying to get to an appointment, and it takes him literally days to get to this appointment, and he goes through all these weird places and like meets strange people, and it's not really about like oh, this is a parody of Trump or whatever. It's just I have these moods and these ideas that come to me, and I build stories around them that are funny, but it's also like horror. It's surreal, and there's a lot of horror, and there's a lot of like noir, so it's very kind of experimental comedy.
that's pretty cool. All right, so yeah, everybody check out his YouTube channel, RUTV, and Pretty Normal Media. Is that what it is? Pretty Normal Media?
Yes, that's the other one.
All right. So thank you once again, GoatLord, for being on the show. I really liked having you. And seriously, if you want to do the show again, I would love to have you on.
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to have you back, man. Whenever you want.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun talking to you.
Well, I certainly had a lot of fun talking to you guys, and I apologize if I got a little yammery about psychedelics back there. That will happen from time to time.
Whatever.
That's okay, man.
Doesn't matter.
I would love to talk more about just about Doom modding and about the history, because we only touched on that a little bit, and it just there's so much behind the history of the company and of the game and of the just the weird intricacies of modding and what it means to us and all that stuff. And I'd love to talk more about that and other obscure shooters. I'd love to talk about Blood, especially.
Yeah, well, we can do that, man. I plan on doing plenty more of these episodes, so Yeah, we'll definitely have you on again. Just we'll keep in close contact, and we can have you on another time.
Okay, man. Well, I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to doing some more.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening.
Show.
All right. Thanks for listening to World Extermination, and keep in touch. We'll be doing more episodes soon, and yeah. All right. Later, guys.
Later.